It's a pleasure to see her in the flesh. Kristine Berzina from the Atlantic Council. How are you?
Excellent. How are you?
All right. We've been harassing Kristina a lot since February of 2022 when Vladimir Putin launched his all-out invasion of Ukraine. When it comes to foreign policy, the whole world is, of course, watching, and in particular, native Ukraine.
Absolutely. So it is a really big issue in this election. How does the foreign policy question get resolved? In some ways, it's a question about what happens next in Ukraine. Is there going to be an acceleration towards a ceasefire or a peace negotiation? Or is there going to be more time for Ukraine to make progress on the battlefield? And is that going to be a question of months, or are we looking at a question of years? That's a question probably between Trump and between Harris.
And some are suggesting that even if Kamala Harris wins the election, Congress has, in effect, signed its last check for military aid to Ukraine. Is that your view?
I think that's really hard to say. In some ways, we get into a different political moment after this election, after today. Then it comes back to a question of what is the American role, what are American values. I think it's not impossible for there actually to be more military aid between the middle of November and the end of the year. But so much depends on this election. So much depends upon the decisions that American people make today. But when I travel around the country, when I talk to Iowan farmers or military service members or people working on the energy side of things in the Appalachians, a lot of European issues make sense. I don't think you can say that there is a red foreign policy or a blue foreign policy, and I think there's a lot of nuance in the American people. And so in some ways it's oversimplified in the Washington conversation, but I think whether you have a Trump or a Harris presidency is going to really also change what that dynamic is like on the ground.
Is Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, ready for a return of Donald Trump to the White House? Should that be the case?
I think so. I think that perhaps in 2016 there was a surprise with Trump coming into power, but we're not in 2016.
So Zelensky has a plan, because let's listen to what Donald Trump had to say on the campaign trail.
Inflation wouldn't have happened. Russia, Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Israel wouldn't have happened. The October 7th Israel attack would have never happened. Those people would all be alive.
So he'll sit both sides down on day one, says Donald Trump. So is Volodymyr Zelensky ready for that? It's going to mean sitting down and conceding territory.
Absolutely. Sorry. So there is a real chance that there need to be a face-to-face conversation very soon. But this is not a surprise. This is something that Ukrainians and Europeans have been thinking about for the last few months. The fact that the reality as it is in the middle of November might be the military reality, that is the reality that is dealt with around a negotiation table, has been clear. The question is, what are the political options on the table? And that's why I think when you look at Zelensky's peace plan, the question of NATO is so important there, right? There's a military reality and there's a political menu. And everyone going into this election from the European side, from the Ukrainian side, is aware of who they might have to deal with. And that's why having an expansive list and a high list of what things that Ukrainians might want has been put out there. And the Ukrainians will have to advocate for themselves as much as possible.
This Tuesday is Election Day in the United States. This Thursday, there's a European Council summit. And it's a tradition that every 6 months there's a new country that's the rotating chair of the European Council. This time it happens to be the most pro-Trump of the 27 members of the bloc, Hungary. And it'll be taking place in Budapest. What are going to be the optics come Thursday if we're still in this position of indecision where we don't know who's winning and Viktor Orban congratulates Donald Trump? Will that just be a bit of political theater?
I think we can expect there to be lots of warm words from Viktor Orban towards Trump, whether or not he is up or undecided or down. That is a relationship that has been steady throughout the past few years. And so that is an expectation. I think there's going to be a lot of caution from other European leaders if we don't know exactly who is up or who is down in the polls. But again, just because there's a rotating presidency and just because Orban has the floor, I think that there's not much of a sense that he speaks on behalf of all of Europe. He is an individual on the European political scene, and I don't think there will be a misunderstanding on the American side should he say something that is not in line with what the other leaders say.
And Christina, finally asking for a friend. France has right now kind of a hung parliament situation. We're probably going to have another snap election at some point soon. And the National Rally, which is also pro-Trump, the far-right party, is tipped to make yet more gains. Again, what the result here, how much does that weigh on European politics?
Europe is going to have to deal with a different United States after the next few months. Whether that's a Trump United States or a Harris United States, it's hard to say. In either way, the responsibility for Europe to do more for its own security and defense and to show the fact that it is investing in developing its economy and its security and defense is going to be very important. It really doesn't matter whether that is Trump or that is Harris. The notion that the shifting of ambition on security has to happen to Europe no matter what, and whether that's Rally or someone else on the French side also doesn't necessarily matter. Someone is going to have to protect Europe. The Americans are there. The Americans are going to continue to be there in some form, but the fact that there is ever more pressure for Europeans to do more, for France to do more, for itself, whoever is in charge, is going to exist.
All right, Kristine Berzina, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Great to see you.